And usually followed my parents' rules. I had a small group of friends. It was me and 3 other guys, one of them being about 17 at the time, who we'll call John. I remember earlier that day, John suggested we go explore an old factory at night. I initially didn't want to do it because I knew I'd be in big trouble if my parents found out, but my dumb teenage mind had other plans. So, nonetheless, I agreed. Later that night, I snuck out of the house and he picked me up. That night, it was just the 3 of us because the other guy was out of town. The factory was on the edge of town, but the roads to get there were so bad we decided to take an alternative route. This meant we had to park about 1.5 miles away and walk along some train tracks the rest of the way. You probably get hurt. Slowly but surely, we crossed. Once we got to the other side, we had just a short walk left. Not even 5 minutes later, we heard a train, but it sounded off. It didn't sound like a normal diesel train. It sounded like an old steam locomotive. At the time, I loved trains, and I still do, but I knew something wasn't right. As the train kept getting closer, it kept blowing its whistle. As it finally passed us, I could tell it was a steam locomotive. I didn't know much about the railroad we were walking along, but I knew for sure it was impossible for a steam locomotive to be running there. At the time, I figured it must have been a late-night tourist train, but that was just my best guess. As we watched the train pass, we suddenly heard a loud boom, almost like a gunshot, but 100 times louder. In 1912, a passenger train loaded with people derailed on that bridge because of a broken rail. Many died, most drowned in the river. After that night, I never went back to those tracks, and I don't plan to, ever again. Decides to have a wee. I'm behind him, minding my own business, when out of nowhere there's a man standing perfectly still in the middle of the tracks, facing away from us. He was probably about 80 meters away, so we couldn't make out many details, but it looked like he was wearing green tweed. It also looked like he had a shotgun draped over his arm, like a brake barrel, unloaded shotgun. I whispered to my friend, "Joe, look at that guy." And immediately, the man turned to face our direction and started walking toward us. We both bolted out of the woods. Trains passing every hour. So why would he be standing right in the middle? Here's a spooky bit of coincidental information. The area where we were building bike jumps turned out to be a former prisoner of war cemetery. German soldiers who died in captivity were buried there. The bodies had been exhumed long before we started digging. The second time was also on train tracks, this time on an abandoned line that had been used by an old army camp from the 1900s to the 1960s. My friend and I were walking along the line, just exploring. We were slightly elevated, so we could see quite a bit ahead. The single track was flanked by hedges, with a field on one side and old hospital grounds on the other. We reached a point where the track curved to the left. From our elevated position, we saw two white figures walking toward us on the tracks, maybe 100 to 200 in the direction they had been coming from, but there was no one there, and there wasn't anywhere they could have gone. The hedgerows and fences on either side were too thick. We were both seriously freaked out and practically power walked to get off the tracks. We both agreed they were definitely all in white, but when we thought about it, we realized we couldn't see legs or arms, yet somehow they were still moving toward us. That part really creeped us out, especially knowing this was a wartime railway line used to transport soldiers to camp and the wounded to the hospital. I'm a bit of a skeptic, but I can't really explain what we saw. It definitely sent a chill down our spines at the time. Hope you enjoyed the read. I've posted another ghost story that happened to me on here if you can find it. It includes some creepy audio I still can't explain.
Make sure to like and subscribe. If you have any stories you would like to share with us, our email is in the description. Let's continue.
This reminds me of a story I read years ago that I literally cannot find anymore. I can't remember a lot of the details, but I'll give the rundown. It was told by a train conductor who had another man with him. So essentially, there were two conductors on the train. This was the kind of train that carries merchandise and cargo, not passengers, just transporting items. Anyway, he claims it was midday, plenty of sunlight, easy to see. He was conducting the train, and while I don't remember where they were headed, they were transporting goods. He's just minding his business when suddenly he sees a woman, about mid-60s, gray frizzy hair, wearing a dress, literally sprinting and jumping in front of the train. This happened directly in front of them, so there was obviously no time to stop. He says the look on her face right before she jumped was pure evil. Naturally, both he and his partner were extremely shaken. When the train eventually came to a stop, the conductor got out to call the police and check if they had actually hit her. Sure enough, there was a body off to the side of the tracks. The impact had thrown her a few feet, so her body wasn't mangled, but she was definitely dead. The partner took a while to come off the train, understandably shaken after witnessing what seemed to be a suicide. The conductor walked over to look at the body, and it was a completely different person. Still a woman, but much younger, maybe in her 20s or 30s. She wore jeans and a t-shirt, had long dark hair, no wrinkles. Immediately he was taken aback, because he knew what he saw jump in front of that train, and this wasn't it. He went back and asked his partner if he had seen the woman who jumped. The partner said yes, so he asked him to describe her in as much detail as possible. The partner described the same old woman the conductor had seen, mid-60s, white frizzy hair, dress, wrinkles, and that twisted look of anger on her face. The conductor brought him back to the body beside the tracks, and sure enough, it was still the young woman. They had no way to explain or understand what had happened. When the police arrived, they left out the part about the old woman and simply reported that a woman had jumped in front of the train. There were other people nearby, since this was a city track, and they also saw the woman jump. Ever since reading that story, it's stuck with me. It's one of the only ones that genuinely creeped me the fuck out, and it still does. I literally have a perfect response for this, though it's a set of tracks, not a station. There's a spot in my county known mostly by locals as a paranormal hotspot. You know the kind of place. College students drive out there and dare each other to antagonize the ghost, and wannabe paranormal investigators show up trying to make contact. It was even featured in the paper one year in a piece about the anniversary of an event that happened there a few hundred years ago. The place is a little road with two tunnels, evenly spaced in the middle. The first tunnel has a set of tracks running over it. There are other paranormal reports unrelated to the tunnel, but my experience involves those tracks. According to local history, back when passenger trains became popular, there was an accident on those tracks. A train carrying around 90 passengers derailed just past the bridge and fell into the woods. If I recall correctly, it had something to do with ice on the tracks. Those who didn't die on impact were trapped, and a fire broke out inside because it was a coal-powered train. The tracks have long since been disconnected, literally ripped up a couple of miles back. Trains are now rerouted elsewhere, and there's no way or reason for one to ever cross that bridge again. In fact, most of the track is completely overgrown with weeds and foliage. My wife used to go there often with friends before we met, even climbing up on the bridge and walking around. During one of those visits, she and a friend were on the bridge at night when they saw and felt a train coming. They saw a light approaching, heard it, and felt the ground shake. After we started dating, she took me there a few times. We'd drive to the end of the street, turn around, and park under the bridge with the car off and the lights out. After exactly 3 minutes and 20 seconds, we'd feel something pass overhead, and the whole bridge and car would shake. I started timing at every visit just to see if it was consistent, and it was. The last time we went, instead of pulling under the bridge, we parked just before it and shut the car off. Sure enough, after 3 minutes and 20 seconds, we heard the train approaching. We all watched as a train light passed across the bridge opening, then slowed down. We heard the sound of air brakes and saw a shadow, shaped like a train, come to a stop right where the original crash happened. It's important to reiterate, there's no way an actual train could have been there. It wasn't a maintenance vehicle or anything like that. Nothing runs on those tracks anymore, and there was absolutely no reason for a train, real or not, to stop the way it did. We always went at different times, not always at night, and never on a set schedule. But every time, this happened exactly 3 minutes and 20 seconds after parking, I still kick myself for not recording it.
Thanks for tuning in. Watch another video if you dare.